Welcome to the Sports Nation TV. As usual, my name is Ban Kaolio. This is quite different because, of course, the change in language. But this is the latest episode of the Inbound, where we always talk nothing but local basketball. And of course, as usual, the main focus is always on the National Basketball League. And today it's not going to be that different. After the end of the regular season, and the curtains went down on Sunday at YMCA with UCU beating Indeji in the last game of the regular season. That and more is what we are going to discuss, and I'm joined by a colleague, and he's a familiar face who needs no introduction. Albert Ahabwe. Say hi to the viewers and we get this started.
Hi everyone, finally get my shot at Sports Nation TV. My guy has been ignoring me for too long.
But what are you trying to say? you very well know that.
But it's nice to be here. Always glad to have a chance to talk basketball. So here we go.
But you very well know that we are supposed to shoot this, I think,
last million times. Even last year there was a failed attempt.
Yes, of course, you remember.
True.
But you are always a busy man, always up and down. What was the excuse the other time?
There was no excuse. I was out of town.
Yes, you're always up country.
I was out of town. I was in Pakwach.
Generally, how is work?
No, we're okay. We're okay. Hustling.
Why are you constructing roads in Pakwach yet here in the central region? Things are not
Decentralization. The city has its owners. Our job is on the national highways.
Actually. Yes, but Albert, you hold many, what should I call it? You put on many caps, but away from those national team duties where you work as the national team manager, everyone knows your passion for UCU, and I've not watched a poor campaign for the UCU Cannons in years than how poor they have been this season.
Agree.
The way they turn over the ball, very uncharacteristic of any coach in Nicholas Natuhereza's side. I don't know how we can sum up their performances this season before we enter the playoffs.
I share your disappointment.
Mine is not a disappointment, actually.
Whatever it is, I share the observation that this has been the poorest Cannons showing in a long time. Even last year when we were almost relegated, we were not this bad. It was the walkover that had caused mathematical problems. But this season has been uncharacteristically poor. And what's most irritating about it is that this team does not lack talent. True. The team is incredibly talented. We have multiple guys at multiple positions, multiple guys that can play multiple positions. We have experience. We can no longer say that the team is full of novices. Most of these guys have played a minimum of 2 seasons. So they've been around. They can't blame anything. They can't blame anybody. I have known Nicholas Natuhereza for almost 20 years. So I know enough to know that it's not a lack of commitment on his side. Actually, he's more present this season than he was last season. Because last season he was coordinating a lot of things that took him out of town. And he missed a number of games last season. He hasn't missed that many games this season. And even brought in an assistant this season in Jonathan Egao, who is a former Cannons player, to help with the coaching. So I personally don't think that the challenge is from the coaching side. I think it's the players. I think they have been disappointing. I think they have to look within themselves and know that they can do better, that those who support them and who fund them and who follow them deserve better performances. If you notice, and this is something I've told the players multiple times this season, they don't trust each other. And trust goes a long way. You see the difference, the lack of trust in the fact that UCU has lost the most close games in the season. True. Games within 5 points to decide, UCU has lost about 6 or 7 of them. Twice to KCC, a game to KIU 50-48, a game to Livingstone, a game to Ndeje, they've lost a number of games that they had no business losing.
Yes, and
even
I think
the game against Blazers that went to 103 points, it was a close game the whole game.
I think that ranks among the best games that I've watched in terms of
execution offensively,
yes.
but defense was rubbish.
Yes, both teams played poor defense, but of course we go out there to watch.
We go to watch offense, so we want to watch the ball go through the hoop. So that's my challenge.
Yes,
and
one thing that
it's opposite, for example, from the girls who had a tough first round because they had many things disorganized them and their fixtures were all over the place. They lost 3 games in the first round, I think to KCC, Magic Stormers and JKL. They came back and won the second round 10-1. Lost only 1 game to JKL. The one day they played badly in the second round is the only game they lost. So it's a different contradiction altogether. Yes,
and if you talk about the Cannons players showing up, I think the players that have disappointed most are the senior players.
Yes.
Starting
so you cannot blame the kids.
Sifuma, Kaila, Joel, who? Jimmy.
Jimmy has had a terrible season compared to what he did last season.
And Jerry Kayanga. Those last 2 have been on and off. I don't know, is it due to injuries or maybe they have other...
No, I don't have an excuse I can make for them. Some of those guys are master's students, so they have a lot more time on their hands than guys who are doing undergrad. So I personally don't have an excuse for them, and I have told them that countless times.
Yes, and one thing that you've noted that I haven't even realized is Coach Nicholas being more present than he has been in the past season, because I remember there are those times when he normally goes to the United States.
Yes, United States, or goes to high school. Last year he was doing high school 3-on-3, he was doing high school games. There was a couple of times when he was absent because of other duties that he had to do.
So we just hope that they can make it up in the playoffs. They have that interesting tie against KCC Panthers, but you're going to reach there.
The KCC Panthers that they lost to twice.
Yes, and Albert, I've got to put you on the spot to just give me your biggest takeaway of the regular season.
Yeah, there are some things that have excited me in the regular season.
Yes, what?
If it was just one, it is, of course, there's the big black spot of the relegation of power.
Yes,
that has got to be a terrible landmark for Ugandan basketball. It now means that the mainstay teams of the 2000s are all gone.
Yes.
All of them. I'm talking Power, Falcons, Warriors, Rhinos, Blue Jackets, Sky Jammers, none in sight. Nkumba, all of them, none in sight, Div 1 and below.
Actually, to be specific, I think it's only City Oilers of the teams that will be playing in the regular season are keeping other factors constant that has won the league before.
Yeah.
Because Power and City Oilers were the surviving members.
Yes.
I don't remember when Sky Jammers were relegated. Nkumba, I think about 3 seasons ago, the same can be said of Charging Rhino. Warriors, they didn't survive relegation, they just disappeared after that COVID.
Yeah.
So it has been tough times, but I think we should start from there.
Let me talk about the good thing. The thing that has excited me the most this season is from the Women's League. The emergency, and they had disappeared a bit. 2 players who play a very crucial position for the Gazelles. A crucial position that we've struggled with from time to time, and we've been looking for a transition from the now at the end of her career, Flavia Okecho. For me, the re-emergence of Evelyn Nachiinji and Shakira Namvovia this season has been very, very exciting.
The Shakira Namvovia of the second round.
Yes, of the second round. In the first round, she was dealing with a wrist injury, a wrist injury that has refused to go away for a long time. So she was on and off in the first round and she didn't play well. But in the second round, she has been masterful. Evelyn has been top tier the whole season. And for me, those 2 are very important players in terms of, we only have 1 point guard right now on the books from abroad who is Lydia Bavirie. But Lydia is not a natural point guard. She's a 2 who can play a 1. Those 2, Shaki and Evelyn, are actual born ones. And for me, seeing how they have come back into their own this year, the leadership roles they are taking, the minutes they are playing, the production on the floor across the board, has been very exciting for me.
I think if you're talking about my two players, especially in the women division, that have excited me, I think I can't go past the two KCCA players. Perusi Nyamwenge, I can put my hand to be cut off. I think she's been the best player in the division.
I think she showed us last year and the year before. We
Yes.
knew exactly what to expect.
Yes,
These
and
two,
then-
for me, it's because they
Yeah.
had taken a dip and they
Yes.
are now back to where they're supposed to.
Yes, I think the other player that I can mention in that same caliber, I think, has been Morina Moding. Take away the inconsistencies, but I think this season she had a point to prove after she was released by.
And I think the
Jaguars.
inconsistencies started after she broke that hand.
Yes, but
once
that
she
is-
broke her
and
metacarpal, it became...
After that injury, I think she got into a clash with Abel of UCU to have an injury on that wrist, and I was told that the club refused to pay the
treat her.
medical bills. Yes, and I think she used the insurance. Well, for her partner, I don't know. And I was told that she fell out with the club. And when performance tried to go down, I thought that maybe she's not in good books with the team.
I think something changed about KCC. I don't know if that's the issue with Maureen or whatever, but if you watched KCC in the first round and watched them in the second round, they are two different teams, completely. And I was telling someone on Sunday that I think, going by what they have showed us in the second round, Jaguars is going to sweep them.
Yes, and that's going to be an interesting series.
Absolutely no
actually.
qualms about that. If they play anything like they've played in the second round, that will be a quick 2-0 for Jaguars.
Yes, and I want us to get this started with the relegation of power.
Yeah.
What management mistakes can you maybe point out that you think led to this?
I have said for a very long time that Power has survived on management by crisis for so long. You cannot have a team where there's not one definitive center of decision making and responsibility and keep at the competitive level that Power has kept at. In fact, Power's survival up until now is a miracle.
So I think they were supposed to even go down in that
They
season.
have been
that was
supposed, yes,
and that was cancelled. Was it 2021?
21.
Yes.
They have been supposed
When they
to
lost the opening
20
5
actually,
games.
I think.
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah. They've been supposed to go down for a long time or to not even be competitive. But there are some people there with a strong spirit that have managed to stay afloat, win enough games to stay afloat. But for me, the leadership structure at Power is where the problem is. The club belongs to no one in particular. So everyone is concerned, but not everyone is responsible. And for as long as you have a team where nobody can say, this is not going to happen, this is not going to happen, this is going to happen. When those decisions are lost in the air, there's not one definitive position that can be taken and the team moves. We've had the stories of fans, all former players sacking coaches, presidents being changed in the middle of the season because there was a bust up at a meeting. So many crazy things. And you cannot continue to survive at this level of competition where teams are getting organized while you are having such problems. And for some reason, Power has never lacked money. You can't say that it is one of the teams that have lacked money. They may have had a down season here and there, but generally...
How much does that sponsor give them?
I have no idea, but I know that they have some money. And there are many teams that play with much less resources and are getting results.
Because if you point out the finance issues,
Yes.
I thought that it's one of the reasons as to why they had a short-handed squad, because they played with about 7 to 8 players for the best part of the regular season.
But that is a problem that begins from the scouting at the beginning of the season. Because I'm thinking at the beginning of the season, if you have been around for as long as Power has been, you know how much you have, you know what it can get you, how much of it and who it can get you. So if you're going to need 8 average players and 4 league stars, that be it. If you're going to need 10 average players and 2 league stars, that be it. Base it on what budget you have, plan for the manpower you can get, and at least have a 10-man roster, because there are very few teams that play beyond a 10-man roster in this league. Most people play a rotation of 7 to 8, 9 players.
And actually that was the excuse that Soki told me, lightly actually, because I told him, you guys, are you going to contend with these players until the end of the season? And he was saying that
I'm sure even he doesn't believe that. He knows.
And he jokingly
what
said
happens
that
when one or two players get injured?
And he jokingly told me that
they'll
no,
manage.
every coach is rotating on just 7 to 8 players.
So what happens when a guy gets ejected?
And you've got to understand that they have players like Philip Amenyi and Isaac Afidra who cannot last more than 3 quarters.
No, even when they are available, even when they are unavailable to you, these are adults with other lives. Afidra has a day job. Philip is a businessman. There will be days when they are not available. What are you going to do? It's not like they are under some professional contract where it is their daily bread. No.
And I think we had such a scenario where a team contended with a few players. An example of Nkumba, I think 4 to 5 seasons back, the ladies team, Nkumba led the Marines, that had the likes of Marion, Brenda Ekon, Susan Baker, and then there was that, was she Tanzanian?
Yes.
I don't know why the name keeps.
I forget the name also.
Yes, and this season I think she hasn't played.
But you see,
they managed to even contend into the playoffs to survive relegation, because by then the main division, if you're surviving if you survive the relegation, you automatically
be in the playoffs.
Yes, but the players they had at Power. Are those the right players that they are supposed to have?
Absolutely not. And the results don't lie. They show you. And for me, this issue of having 7 to 8 players, sometimes it is debunked by other teams. How many players did Jaguars start the season with? The women.
The women, I think they
You remember on opening day, they had 2 subs. That young girl from Nabisusa, Priscilla, got an accident on the way to the game. Brenda Kayaga was lighting up KIU. She got injured in the second quarter. From that point on, they had 1 sub to finish the game. Ageno played 40. I'm trying to remember another player who played 40. Was it Nabosa?
Should be around Masi. Should be Masi.
Yes.
Masi Batamaliza.
No, Masi Batamaliza I don't think played the opening game. KIU.
Did she?
That's, I think, when they were in the netball something in the UK or something.
The
first 2 games she missed. Then there's another girl who, I think it was Nabosa or someone, who played 40 minutes with Ageno.
Rhoda?
Could be. I don't remember exactly, but I know that 2 players on that opening game against KIU played 40 minutes because they just didn't have a bench. Now, games following that, for a while, most of the first round, there were not more than 10 players for JT Jaguars. But look now, they are in 5th place. So sometimes it's not even the number of players you have. But it's what quality of players do you have. Also, how committed are those players? They may not be the best quality out of the world. But if they show up for every game, for 22 games, every practice, for 10 months of the season, you are at some point going to be able to get a product out of them. I mean, look at Livingston. How many players do you know there by name and face? Many of those guys you don't know, but they show up, they grind.
And actually, I think all of them were playing.
Yeah, look at our Savior.
Then BL for the first time.
Look at our Savior. Those guys show up, they grind every day, and the results will show. JKL. We all thought they were going to be relegated at the beginning of the season. It ended up being KCCA, it ended up being Ndeje and Power. So for me, it's the quality of players you have, the level of commitment, but most importantly, the clear distinction of who is supposed to do what in management, who makes the decision, who says this boat floats or it doesn't. For as long as you don't have that center of responsibility, because Kawaria, I can ask you, for every team in the league, all 24 teams in the NBL, men and women, you can say who makes the decisions, apart from Power.
Actually.
Every other team, I can ask you to name me one person who makes the decisions, who says this is happening, this is not happening. You have a name for all 24. For all 23, you don't have one for Power. And therein lies the problem.
And actually, even the addition of Namakon, the technical team, didn't...
Frustrated the whole season. You know him, Brian wears his feelings on his face.
Yes.
There are games where he did some things, him and Timothy, to pull off a win. But there are many games where he looked like he wishes he could put on a jersey and get on the floor.
Then after that first round of the regular season, they made some additions. Was it Powell, then Kevin, that Nigerian American guard, Geoffrey Soro,
right?
Yes, the light-skinned one who's always moving around the arena when the team is not playing. I think that's the right description.
That's the most work he does. That's the most production he has.
And then Geoffrey Solo.
And then he posts Kobe.
That tweet.
Yeah, man, come on. You can't have the season you had. Play the way you did. Relegate a team, then post Kobe. No.
I thought that he was going to disappear after
Power away quietly, like how Douglas went away quietly after relegating Falcons. Just quietly, go away.
What do you think they didn't do right? Because they could have saved their season after that poor first round, because the red flags were there.
The red flags were obvious, and they knew the number of games they needed to win in the second round for them to be able to survive. But again, commitment, manpower, and leadership. They did not fix any of those things. They did bring in guys who I know can, and I say this to people who, a player like Geoffrey Soro, Soro can win you 2-3 games in the NBL. He's been around long enough to know that he has enough
Maybe
basketball
you're talking about the Soro of Ndeje.
No. The Soro of Ndeje, you want him to play you an MVP season. This Soro doesn't need to play you an MVP season. This Soro doesn't need to give you 35 minutes. This Soro needs to give you an efficient 3 to 5 minutes every quarter. In which minutes, wherever his body is, but his mind, he has a basketball mind. You will struggle to find players in this league who communicate defensively as much as Soro does. But for me, that was always his biggest gift. But then it comes down to... Give me a second. It comes down to the things that we've been talking about. Managing commitment, managing discipline. I'll tell you something that most people don't know. That night, I think Oilers played KIU.
They were in the 2017 final series?
No, this season, Power had the game against our savior the next day. Guys hung out at Lugogo. I spoke to Soro as soon as the Power game, the Oilers game ended. I got out, went to sidelines. I found Soro leaving. He said, "Good night, I have a game that we must win tomorrow." That's uncharacteristic of Soro. Yes, we are not used to that side. Check out the tape of the Livingston game. He played his heart out.
Is that the game that they threw away 20
Our savior is when they lost a 20-plus lead. And there are things that some of the players did in that game that you look at and it doesn't make sense to you. You are up 3. These guys are attacking the basket. Foul the guy. Your flag is up. Put him on the line. Let him make 2 free throws. You still have a 1-point lead. You have the ball. Small tactical basketball decisions. But all that stuff is a representation of the nonsense you have done in the whole season. You can't just wake up, switch on a light bulb in the last 5 games of the season when you need wins desperately. Your mistakes of the whole season catch up with you. And it's the same thing I was telling the UCU boys. You can't tell me that you are now going to perform in the playoffs. But you have been doing these things all season. These are now habits. They have stopped being mistakes. They have stopped being one-off events. They have now become habits. This is how you play every time the game gets tough. Because this is how you've been playing the whole season. So that's what happened to Power.
Now, Albert, I think Power maybe has not learned from the likes of Falcons.
Absolutely.
But if you were to advise the Power management, because they might need, of course they really need an immediate bounce back, what are the areas that they need to improve?
One, I don't know if Power management is good at taking advice, but also taking advice from people like us. I think they have won a lot. I think they take advice from people champions who have won as much as them. I haven't. My UCU has never won a championship. The men, but the women have a lot of championships. My thing to Power would be go back to the DNA of Power, of making your own players. the greatest generation of power. Isaac Afidra, Joseph Ikong, Alan Taoda, Ken Baliejusa, the late Wilbur Dokecho before them. MacGyver was there for a short time from Bushcourt. But I'm talking about guys who spent multiple years. Guys who essentially chiseled their star teeth at power. David Chiveru, Robert Muviru, Ben Komakecho, how did I forget? Those guys came to power young. Yes, we already knew what they were capable of as players, the level of talent they had, but they came to power young. They grew an identity as power players. And then success fell along the way. Because they were a united group, they were a committed group, they were passionate about power, about their culture, about who they are. They had an identity. You have to go back and grow that identity because now basketball has changed. You have kids who can't lay up with the left hand, but as soon as you talk to them after senior 6, they want 1 million shillings as a salary. They have kids who can't dribble the ball between their legs or who can't shoot a free throw, but they are demanding a salary of 1.5 million and an apartment.
Yes, because sport is no longer about passion.
Yeah, it's no longer about passion, it's about, but it's also about from the owner's perspective. What can you do for me? Are you worth this money? So a lot of players in that league are not worth the money they are being paid. Because there's no way you tell me that in an economy like ours, in a league like ours, you are paid 1.5 million shillings, you average 52% on the free throw line. That's trash. It's trash. There's no way you are paid that kind of money in an economy as poor as ours, and you shoot 52% on the free throw line. And that's a lot of NBL players. But the best free throw shooters this season, I saw the stats last night, the best free throw shooters this season in the women's division are both on 66%. Can you believe it? That you are the best free throw shooter in the league, but and every game you play, 62%. You leave, of every 10 free throws you shoot, you leave 4 of them on the floor.
Yes, and by the way, most teams have lost the games.
Many games have been lost on the free throw line. Yes. The game between Oilers and UCU. UCU lost that game on the free throw line. They missed so many free throws, and it's the senior players. The guys who have licenses to shoot to the ball.
But still on power. There is a colleague of mine. He no longer watches basketball as much, but I know him as a core power fan. He was telling me the other night that power died the moment they let go of that big core. The likes of Joseph Ikong, MacGyver. You remember when they swept their squad, when they made that big reshuffle. Do you agree with that?
It wasn't the first time they had done it. They've done it before when they've chased people in bulk, or chase people at a time when they were not supposed to. Do you remember the Philip Chomhendo letter to Afidra?
Yes, I remember. That story? Yes. It
was a terrible decision at a terrible time against a terrible club symbol. Isaac Afidra is a power symbol. That little cameo video you saw of him walking out of the arena, of the YMCA, I know Avitas is a good guy, and he doesn't do things in bad taste, but basketball totalitarians would have thought that video was in bad taste. Don't put it out. Because, man, that was pain. That was the realization that...
Was that when 20, 30...
No, the Livingston game, the real relegation game, is the realization by an icon of a team that it's over.
But it wasn't that as well. Like it didn't start on that.
No. Relegation can't happen in one day.
No.
Relegation can't happen in one day.
Power knew they were relegated when they threw away
they lost that
Our Savior game. Because you know when it's a no matter Our Savior, like when the game ends, of course the players have got to converge in the same time. They have that word of player.
Yeah.
When that game ended,
it didn't happen.
Power players.
I know. But they still had an opportunity. They still had an opportunity, even though they had made it more difficult for themselves. Yes. They still had an opportunity to salvage their season against Livingston.
Yes, but I don't think that the ball was in their court.
It would have been tough. But you win the game, you bring mathematics into the conversation again, and then now that brings JKL into the conversation.
Yes.
So
Albert, as we try to leave this power thing,
yes.
What does this mean for the league, given that clubs with such a storied history are going down? Because the league is as big as is made up of these big these bigger franchises.
My friend, life goes on. Teba Kulimba. Kampala Rockets is now talking big money. They are paying Ruai money that the big teams couldn't afford to pay him. UCU constantly reinvents themselves. You have a KCC team that has now become competitive because they put together a group of long, athletic, willing defenders who have been in the league for a long time and they are competitive. JT Jaguars is getting hundreds of money from sponsors. You don't think they are going to upgrade next year? They are going to be here for a very long time. We know that the people who, they may not say this, but we know that the people who run JKL are the ones who are running Ndeje. Now they've unshackled themselves from the responsibility of Ndeje. Next season they are going to put some more money in JKL, it will compete. KIU is competitive. KIU and Namblazers are looking for an opportunity to go to BAL, so they are competitive. Life moves on. When Falcons and Warriors disappeared, didn't Oilers come and fill that vacuum? And basically delete them by winning more championships than everybody else has won. I think Oilers have more championships than Power and Warriors combined, don't they?
Warriors have 2, Power
Warriors have 2, Power have 5,
Those are
7.
True, 9 in a row. And they are now going for a 10th.
Yeah,
and,
so
as you leave Power.
Power abhors a vacuum. I think you have heard that before. There will be no vacuum in a sports facility like that. The teams are going to come, take over, and you disappear from the conversation.
And life will move on.
Yeah.